before I lost my virginity, I did have this like preconceived opinion on people who had, like, if I had met somebody and they were like, "Oh, I'm not a virgin," I was like, "Dog, like you're dirty, the dirtiest, dirt, like you are the worst human being on the planet." Not like necessarily the worst human being on the planet, but I definitely looked at you in a different way, in a very judging way. And you know, after I lost mine, I think that I've learned that it's kind of a social construct. I was introduced to the idea that it was a social construct a while back, and people were talking about how, like, in the olden days, whoever says that anymore, in like the olden days, people would use virginity as a way to like mark value, and I was like, man, I think that like it's not like necessarily important. There's a quote from this show I really love, Steven Universe, and it talks about how the person you were before me doesn't matter if you enjoy the person I am now. And I was like, that is true. Like, why do we care about somebody's body count per se? Because in that time, or in their mind, at that time, that was the right decision to make. Or, that was what they thought was the best decision. And I think we shouldn't judge people for thinking that you can't we shouldn't judge people. We shouldn't judge people for decisions. We shouldn't judge people for making decisions that they have in the past. And I thought when I was younger, when I was like 13, 14, 15, I'd meet people who lost their virginity, and I thought they just got it all wrong. The same with smoking and vaping. I thought people like that were just low. And with time, and now being on the other side of the coin as somebody who's lost their virginity, I think that as a society today, we treat it as too much of a deciding factor on who we are. Like, um, it is really a social construct. Like, why is being a virgin even really a term? Like, who cares? Personally, I don't. I think it's silly to block your blessings from potentially meeting somebody who you can love forever based on them losing their virginity or their body count. You know, Also diminishing people to body count is just a whole other story for a whole other day. But I want to talk about how I lost mine. So, previously I did view people who lost their virginity as people who were just, like, you were just not it. You were not it. And now, being on the other side of the coin, after I lost my virginity this year on my birthday. And I had a girlfriend. I've been dating her for about a year and a half at this point. And, we decided to make that decision. And I feel like if you were to meet me now after losing my virginity and I tell you I'm not a virgin and you were to judge me based off that, it wouldn't be just. Because in that time, in December, by my birthday, with that person, I thought the best decision or the right decision was to lose my virginity with that person. And I don't think I should be judged for that. Sure, there are different situations. People have 10 partners or 30 partners. Those situations, it can get a little different. But at the same time, I think the same principle stands of people thought that that was the right decision. And who I was then and who I am now are two totally different people. And if you accept the version of me now, then why does the version back then matter? Right? Um, to be honest, when I lost mine, I didn't know how to treat my partner. I think I'd chosen right, but if I was to go back, I'd probably do a couple things better. Probably show that I cared more. And I think the person that I did it with deserved a better take or better, experience. And I put, and unfortunately, in my mind at the time, I couldn't give that. Me and that person are no longer together anymore. And I do think that that person probably regrets doing it. And I feel like if you're going to take on the role or social construct, idea, whatever, of virginity, you should make it count. Like, I think the reason I had my virginity for quote unquote so long till I was 17 is because I noticed at a young age that this is going to be somebody who I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And I don't think I should waste it or, give it to somebody who I'm not going to remember or I'm not going to care for in a week, a month. I think people in this generation give it up, not give it up, but, kind of look over the fact that in this society where that construct of virginity is a thing, you have to treat yourself too as if you're a prize or as if it's as something sacred because it is. And I see a lot of people my age just treating it as something that's not important. Even with sexual interactions too, people just, I think personally, sexual interactions is just something I will always hold sacred to me. I think that in my lifetime, I probably only sleep with 5 people just because of how I view sexual interaction and how valuable it is and how much of a connection I want to have with the people I do it with, right? So, now that I'm on the other side of the coin, having lost my virginity, I can confidently say I was wrong in that the society I was raised in had given me this preconceived notion that people who lost their virginity were bad, or losing it necessarily meant that I as a person would change. And I changed in the ways that I learned, but I didn't change in a way where negatively. I didn't change negatively. And I think it's I think it's super wrong to judge somebody based off of the decisions they've made in the past when the person now is somebody you enjoy. So, yeah, that was my take on losing my virginity. Hopefully you got the point I was trying to make. If you liked the video, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one.